Next, from Springfield, Comptroller Judy Baar Topinka announces a plan to try to help nonprofit organizations that are in danger of going out of business due to the state not paying its bills. This runs about 30 minutes.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Family Service Center, Central Illinois' oldest social service agency. We're very proud of our 150-year-old history serving the children and families in our area through traditional and specialized foster care, adoption, birth parent counseling, as well as Compass, our new after-school program for homeless elementary students here in Springfield District 186. Our motto is stronger families, stronger communities, and stronger tomorrows. And we live and work by these words every day here in this office, as well as out in the community. We also know that we're not successful alone, and it's through a network of nonprofits working together to improve our community that we reach our goals. To that end, I've invited some representatives of those nonprofits to join us today to be part of this recognition, and I wanted to publicly thank them for their friendship and help in our work together. I also want to thank our hardworking staff, who work extremely hard for their families, and also maintain a positive attitude during these difficult budget times. During a recent conversation I had with some other nonprofit leaders, we added up the amount of income that we were owed from the state of Illinois, and with the 7 nonprofits represented at that time, it was $4.2 million. And I'd have to get an update from them about where they are right now, but it's very difficult right now to be a nonprofit in Illinois. We are, however, very honored to welcome Comptroller Judy Baar Topinka to Family Service Center today, as well as Bill Logan, the Executive Assistant for Mayor Houston, to be able to join us today and learn a little bit more about nonprofits and how our work together makes a difference in our community. So to that end, I'd like to welcome Comptroller Topinka.
Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you. Always good. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Erin. I did appreciate the fine introduction. And of course, it's good to see a lot of friendly faces because, you know, when you owe $8 billion, sometimes you look out in the audience and there's not too many smiles, as you can imagine. And I think, you know, if you all thought I was bringing a check, you know, forget that right now. That's not going to work as well because, you know, we continue to be backlogged and having a difficulty in terms of trying to make that appropriated pie of ours go as far as it can go with those slivers getting ever smaller and ever smaller to keep people in order. But certainly here for the Family Service Center, I mean, I really appreciate you opening up your doors here to us. You do so much for the community. You take care of the folks that we need to take care of. And I tell you, we've been going around the state, and there are some very, very needy people who are definitely going to be hit hard by what the state has done and the cuts it's made. And there's no place for them to go other than our social service agencies who are very, very hard pressed right now all the way around. So let me get to the chase right away. The work that we have of nonprofits is so vital because you fill in the holes of all these state cuts. You take care of the neediest of needy. If we did not have you, I don't know where the state would go. And there you are, and holding on very often by a thread. And it's upsetting to me because I know the work you do. And you're almost, because we take money from you for other reasons and it goes elsewhere, that basically you are the folks that hold this whole thing together. You are the mortar that holds the bricks of Illinois together. And your organizations literally are the backbone of our state because you serve our most vulnerable residents and you provide the resources, the life skills, the support, also the hope, because we have a lot of folks who would have just thrown in the towel if it had not been for all of you to help to make them productive and really useful citizens to themselves and to the community at large, because otherwise, you know, we're going to lose them in one form or another. Frankly, if you don't take care of them, in many cases these folks would wind up either on public aid, or they'd be on the street, they'd be homeless, or they'd wind up in jail. Either way, we're going to wind up paying significantly more money than what you provide, and do so for really, in comparison, a pittance for what is necessary. Obviously, it is increasingly difficult for non-for-profits in the state of Illinois to keep their doors open, and that's scary, because the challenges that you're facing now are probably the most staggering than you have ever faced in your entire history. This is probably the worst it's ever been. I would kind of hope it's beginning to bottom out, because I don't know if we can go any farther. And if you see, as the federal and the state and local governments try to balance their budgets, and I am a real budget balancer and one who wants to make sure that we can keep our programs intact as much as possible and make our money go farther. You know that when the feds, the state, the local governments are trying to balance these budgets, that non-for-profit funding is oftentimes sacrificed. You are the ones that are going to take the biggest hit. And there you are doing the greatest service. It doesn't necessarily make sense. So, in fact, state funding for the State Department of Human Services alone has been cut by $700 million just the last 2 years, and that's a big chunk, big chunk. So even when money is budgeted to get to you, oftentimes it's not enough. And so you really don't have enough to operate. I mean, after all, you've got vendors, you've got people you've got to pay. You've got to pay for the light bill. You've got to pay for the building. I mean, I think homeowners can realize just what they do with their homes. You've got this facility you've got to take care of and the people within it. So, I mean, there's constant bills you have to pay. I think we saw that firsthand in the last couple of months when service providers for the developmentally disabled and child care homes, they were literally blindsided with news that the state was just plumb out of money. And they would not receive their promised payments. Now, you're supposed to budget. You've got contracts. You're waiting for the money to come in so that you can do what you have to do and carry out your mission. And suddenly the state says, goodbye. And they hang their gone fishing sign out on the door and walk away and say there's no money, and that's the end of it. Well, you know, that doesn't work very well either. So fortunately, in each case, the Comptroller's office was able to use new appropriations to expedite the payments here to non-for-profits, but it really should never have to come to that. I mean, we should not have to be the lifesaver here that holds all of this together with baling wire and bubble gum, and that's basically kind of what we're doing. So finally, even when funding is on the way, the ultimate insult is you don't even know when it's going to come. So, you know, it's the constant trip to the mailbox in the high hopes that maybe there is a state check, because there's no predictability, there's no dependability. That's one thing we're trying to address. So even if we can't get the whole amount of money out to you, that we will get it out in a timely fashion so that at least you can make book on it. Otherwise, I don't know how you do business with all the vendors and all the subsidiary agencies and business people you work with, because you're going to have a ripple effect, as you can imagine. It really is a brutal situation, and it's very untenable for many. So I'm here today to urge our non-for-profits to understand that if they are having a really serious problem and they're holding on just by their fingertips, and maybe they can't make payroll, or maybe they're going to, you know, they're just on the verge of declaring bankruptcy. I mean, it's just going downhill very quickly. If you are in dire straits because of state payment delays, then please, immediately, before it gets totally out of hand, because we don't want to lose you, you have to call our office. Please call our office, because we do have people there waiting to hear from you so that we can hopefully prioritize payments for serving our most vulnerable residents, namely those that you're dealing with here in the non-for-profits and service agencies. You know that civilization is really and truly given historical merit if indeed they've taken care of the old, the sick, the weak, and those folks who can't take care of themselves. That's what makes a really spectacular society. If we forget that, then I think we take the hit for that we haven't done our part. If government is supposed to be helpful on any front, that's where it should be helpful. The fact is, you don't have mountains of extra cash lying around to get you through these months of delay. And I know you're living day to day, and like many of Illinois residents and people all over the United States, because of the economy, you're living check to check. So it is very important that those checks come in an orderly fashion, and we try and help as much as possible to move you up in the queue that we have and get you up at the top so that you will be paid first. Now, having said that, that's the good news. You'll be at the top. But understand that the pie does not get any bigger. So for everyone we move to the top, we have to move someone to the bottom. And that is not a good thing. But there's just so much money to go around, and frankly, there's no other way. I can say you have a friend in the Comptroller's office. We understand the critical nature of your work. We will be there for you, and we would ask you to contact us. I do have phone numbers. They're a little hard to remember. Let me give you a shot at them. It's our hotline, which is 1-855-IL-ASK-US, or 1-855-452-7587. We also have a website, IllinoisController.com, or if you forget absolutely everything, then you just call the Comptroller's office, say, I am in a non-for-profit, we're in trouble, and you will be connected to folks who will be able to help. Every case, of course, being different because you're all different. But you will also, and I think this is the good news, you'll be able to talk to a real live human being there. We don't have voicemail. We don't have some kind of a pre-recorded operator who's going to keep you in some Byzantine automated operator system. So we'll be able to really solve the problem right from the get-go. So I want to thank you all for being here today, for all your efforts. I will be happy to answer any questions, but I assume you would like to have, anybody else talk. That would all be fine. I certainly would like to recognize the fact that, we do have here Bill Logan, who's the executive assistant to the Springfield Mayor, Michael Houston. Needless to say, busy mayor is running around doing all sorts of meetings. And I am proud to note that Alderman Corey Jobe is at the back of the room, and he not only is an alderman, but he works for us. He's an assistant controller. So as a result, we do have a pipeline right into official Springfield and do keep track of things very, very well. So anyone else wish to speak? Hey, there we go. All right. I will sit down and give it to you. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you very much, Judy. I'm glad to be here this morning representing Mayor Mike Houston and also the Office of the Mayor and the citizens of Springfield. It's good to also acknowledge my good friend Corey Jobe, who is, we all work together, we're a team, and it's good to see you here. Judy, I must say, we go back a long ways, and I always remember fond times, but you did give me a scare, I must admit.
I tried to.
I happened to be walking, getting ready to go to lunch at this hotel that you wouldn't name earlier. And they were wheeling somebody out in a stretcher. And I was mortified and more to know that it was you. And I kind of was trying to figure out what was happening. And when I got close enough, you looked up at me and you gave me this sign. And I thought, hey. And I told the mayor that when I got back. And he said, Judy, we can't keep her down. So it's always good to see you. It's always good to be with you. We love you, and we support the work you do. You do great work for the state of Illinois, and we do appreciate it. I too want to reiterate what the treasurer has said. We know how important. I know how important a lifeline of not-for-profits are. I belong to the Frontiers organization here in the city of Springfield. Have been a member for some 30 years, and I also used to do a lot of work with the Family Service Center many years ago when it was open, under Mary Jane Forney, by the way, and in and out of this building many times when the United Way, as I was a member of the United Way at one time. So I do appreciate and understand the importance of not-for-profits and the role they play in all of our lives. As a matter of fact, the very vital and important role they play. As a matter of fact, if it were not for our not-for-profits, there would be a lot more suffering in our community and in our communities across the state, were it not for the work that all of you do. And for all of that, you have a lot to be proud of, and we have a lot to be proud of, because we're proud of all of what you do. And thank you, Judy, for what you're doing to try to help in times of need, and of course that's now. In terms of what our not-for-profits are about and how many of them are struggling and can't make ends meet in many ways. The kinds of things that you're doing, Madam Treasurer, will go a long way toward helping to relieve the situation, and we're just honored to be here to say thank you to all of that. Once again, thanks for what you do. We care about what's going on. Contact the mayor's office if we can be of any assistance at all. Thank you, Judy.
Oh, you're
Keep up the good
You're
work.
wonderful. Good supporter. Good supporter. You do what you're supposed to do. May I go up?
Yes,
Just a
please.
second? I know since Bill brought this up, I do have to just do a public acclaim because I'm going to have to write something about it, and I intend to bring cookies over to the firehouse. But I have to absolutely commend the wonderful Springfield Fire Department and the paramedics who were right on the scene and got me to the hospital. I have to also just thank Memorial Hospital, who has done, it is just a phenomenal, phenomenal place between the doctors and the nurses. And I have to apologize to the nurse who didn't want to talk to me because I took a swipe at her when she made me hurt, and I took a swipe, and she got a little put out by that and didn't want to work with me anymore. So what could I say? But anyway, I didn't connect, by the way. I didn't connect, so she's okay. She's okay. But really, they did a wonderful job. The rehab people, I'm still going over there, and they still do horrible things to me and make me hurt so that I'll be better. And you really have so much going in this wonderful city. It's so good to be a part of it. I just love it. I love Springfield. I really do love Springfield and everything that it entails, and you make it a better place. So that having been said, so please say nice things in the press about the fire department because, oh, gosh, I love them. Okay, any questions on anything else that we brought up today?
Treasurer, when
Yes.
someone calls in, if they're owed $4 million, can you give them a partial payment to help with the cash flow, or do you have to pay them everything that they're owed?
Well, if all things were paradise, we would pay them the $4 million, no question. But right now, we are $8 billion in the hole. We're probably paying bills that are backlogged to mid-April. We still have not paid those. And we're not even talking pensions now or Medicaid. We're just talking about monies that we owe. So as a result, we can get them probably something to get them over the hump. That's our biggest
So you
thought
can't
here.
make a partial payment.
Yeah, we can do a partial payment and get them to the next step. You know, keep them from bellying up. That's my big thing, is I don't want to lose them. I'm beginning to feel a little bit like Noah because I've got this ark, and I'm trying to get everybody on the ark, and we're trying to make sure that we keep our social service agencies intact. Now, I'm not going to tell you the system is fair. It's very subjective. There's no way you can really come out with one standard plan because everything is so different. But again, those that serve the neediest of the needy are going to go to the top of the heap first. And we're going to hope that those who can afford to take the hit can wait just a little longer. It's not great.
What were you hearing from nonprofits that prompted you to take this action to make these announcements?
Well, we get their phone calls. And those that have called have really and truly been just totally up against the wall. I mean, I know just of one instance here in Springfield that involved nursing homes where even the gentleman who owned them had now taken out a mortgage on his house just to make payroll. So, I mean, the man was going to bankrupt. It was going to go down. What are we going to do with these people? What, I throw them out on the street? I mean, there is no game plan here for taking care of the folks that the nonprofits take care of. So as a result, if we could help and put that together and get at least some money into the mix, we can keep it going until times get better, the economy gets better, people spend more, we get more tax dollars, we have more than we can appropriate.
So I go to the front of the line just for asking, just for telling my tale of almost shutting down my nonprofit?
Well,
Just for the asking?
no, not just for the asking. We are going to evaluate every single call that comes in. I am not one to hand out checks gratuitously. You know, so we will check and make sure that indeed that need exists.
But what I don't understand is for money that's not there.
No,
There's some money.
there is some money, but it could go to corporate tax refunds. It could go to others whom we owe. It could go to vendors to whom we owe. It could go to any number of places to whom we owe, because we owe a lot of money to a lot of people, a lot of agencies, a lot of organizations. So what we do is just kind of push them down a little bit in the queue and bring the social service agencies up.
I didn't realize there was even that flexibility. I mean, we keep hearing how we're in such dire straits as a state.
Well, I'm not going to tell you there's great piles of money out there. There's not. I mean, that pie remains that we have is finite. All we can do is try and manipulate it, if you will, to get it up and again, get to the neediest of needy. That's not going to leave us with a lot of money. It's not going to allow us to pay a lot of people off. It's still going to keep us in the hole. We're still $8 billion in the hole straight across the board. That's not going to improve the situation. All it does is just change the lineup.
What do you mean by Illinois has heart?
That we do have these social service agencies who, by and large, work for little money. I mean, in terms of what they get. We have so many people who volunteer. We always take such a beating in the press and everywhere else that Illinois has corrupt officials. We're always the last of every list. Our pension program is the worst in the nation. You know, it's just horrible, horrible, horrible. Illinois has heart because it takes care of its needy. And I think that's worth something. So that's our heart. That's where we try to make it happen. It's the empathy.
You think the General Assembly and the administration and the governor are living up to that?
I would hope that they would always keep it in mind. Let's put it that way.
What would you like to see the state do at this point to help get agencies like this one back on track, get that funding back in place? I mean, I know year after year there's a struggle to make ends meet, so what could be done at this point?
Well, the legislature, would have to appropriate more monies to various agencies. I mean, we had agencies that just were not appropriated enough to get through the year. So, when they're halfway or so, 2/3 of the way through the year, they close up shop. Now, that's just irresponsible, frankly. I mean, you know what it's going to cost. You know how much you can put in, even if you cut it. You know how much you got to stay in business on the state end to keep these folks going. You just can't arbitrarily walk away, put in X number of dollars that won't go the distance, and say it's okay. It's not okay. And if we're going to make these cuts, there are other places in the budget that you can make cuts. Now, that's not going to solve, all these cuts are not going to solve the whole problem of Illinois' financing. I'm not going to tell you there's one silver bullet out there. But take into account that when you're making cuts, that when you're hitting the neediest of needy, where are they going to go? Unless you buy into the idea that you just cut bait, throw them on the street, or hope for the best. But again, remember, if you do, you're going to run into homelessness, you're going to run into public aid, you're going to run into prison, you're going to run into drug addiction, you're going to run into prostitution, you run into everything that's awful because you're going to put people on the street. Now, that's going to cost you more in the long run. I'm saying you're being penny wise and pound foolish. We should be thrilled to death that we have these social service agencies to fill the breach that the state has not taken care of. It's not done its job, and that irritates me. Okay?
Aaron, if I could ask you a question.
Yeah, okay, give it to the boss.
Yes.
Why don't you just give us the perspective of an executive director of a nonprofit, what the state's financial problems have meant to your nonprofit, how much of your budget comes from the state, and what have you had to do to cut back to survive?
For Family Service Center, we've had a lot of ups and downs this last year. I started August 15th of this, so not quite a year ago. And in that time, we've had to close one program due to late payments from the state. Our teen parenting, or young parent support services was the program, and that closed at the end of January. I will say that due to the comptroller's help, we were able to keep the program open a little longer. We were able to contact them, and they were able to make some expedited payments, which kept the doors open a little bit longer, which was a great help, and we were able to facilitate a smoother transition for staff and clients as well. That's one effect that it's had on us. We also just, I will say during this whole budgeting process, there's just the sense of unease. Budgets are never fun to make. We had to remake our budget, I think probably 7 times. I'm looking at our accountant right now. Every time we got new news from the state, we had to move this program here or make this cut here, shift these things around. It's just not efficient. It wastes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and there are people that we need to take care of. So not knowing just is exactly that, not knowing. You just end up hoping that you're going to keep the programs open and a contract comes through and that staff will be able to contend with stability in their life. That's always helpful for them. And our staff are amazing, and they're wonderful. They're very dedicated. They need a steady paycheck and secure employment. And and to know that their work matters to their community. And as long as we can give them that, their heart is in it, and they're going to keep doing their work.
What would it mean if more programs are cut from an agency like this one? I know she said there's the fear of all these awful things happening. What would happen for clients who come to you?
We have foster care programs, so we have traditional and specialized foster care. So if those programs are cut or the funding's cut for them, we would have to increase caseloads. We would end up struggling with being able to take good care of those children, which to me is untenable, and I'm pretty sure we'd come up with another solution. We are given this awesome responsibility of caring for the children that need the most care, and we take that extremely seriously. So I'm not sure what I would do. I'm pretty much sure I'd shake all the trees to make sure we got some money somehow, because it's not acceptable to have that happen. The other programs, we have our new Compass program, which is an after-school program for homeless children here in Springfield. And that, the funding comes from that. We're a United Way agency, so we have United Way funding for that. And it's a pilot program this year and is funded for the next couple of years. We've also received funding from Springfield Rotary Club and the American Business Club. So we've got some outside funding, which is part of one of my solutions, is to diversify our funding so we're not as reliant on the state, since we have not been able to depend on that funding as much.
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois.